Rockland Zoning Board of Appeals. As the recording said, this is being recorded and live streamed to YouTube.
Rob, it's still doing it. It's someone else has their phone on or something, or a TV or something.
Someone else.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's what I'm going to ask.
Oh, no, it's back.
Now it's back.
Yep.
All right. Is it still mine?
No, I don't think it's yours.
I don't think
No.
it is either.
Okay. What I'm going to ask is that everybody other than the board members mute yourselves for right now. We'll start that way. How we doing? Everybody okay? How's that? Better?
No. It's someone has a cell phone or something listening.
I think it's Stephen Galley when I see the microphone moving, so you might want to mute just for a minute.
Okay.
Okay, try that.
Yeah,
Anybody else?
gone. So it must be Steve.
Still good? All right. Well, we'll keep it at bay. We'll see how this works. So again, welcomes are good. Everybody knows we're recording. That's good. All members of the zoning board are participating remotely. That would be myself, Rob Rosa. That would be Robert Baker Sr. That would be Greg Tanzi. That would be Stephen Galley, and that would be Robert Baker Jr. So with that, I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a second?
I'll second it.
I got a second. Roll call. Myself is a yes. Mr. Baker Sr.,
Yes.
Mr. Tanzi,
Yes.
Mr. Baker Jr.,
Yes.
and Mr. Galley.
Yes.
Okay. So, let me read the legal ad. Here we go. 7:30 p.m. Remotely conducted public hearing will be held by the Rockland Zoning Board of Appeals. All right. Now I hear.
Yeah. Steve, mute yourself again.
Yeah, Steve, do you have like dual things going? No? Deb, do you have two meetings going at the same time?
Shut it off, but I'm going to mute myself again.
What did you say you have?
I had a fan going, but I don't have it on my phone's off. I mean, like my phone's not running. I'll mute myself again.
Yeah, just mute yourself and we'll play it by ear. All right, 7:30 p.m. remotely conducted public hearing will be held by the Rockland Zoning Board of Appeals on Tuesday, April 16, 2024 at 7:30 p.m. on the application Rockland Station LLC 171 VFW Drive, Rockland, Mass. And Robert M. Delmonico, trustee, Pleasant Street Realty Trust 171 VFW Drive, Rockland, Mass. For a special permit pursuant to zoning bylaw section 415-14C.22, uses requiring a special permit, 415-79 environmental performance standards, 415-80 general performance standards, and 415-89 special permits. To allow applicant to construct a 35,000 square foot building to store equipment and materials that are currently stored outside, and the recycling of existing synthetic turf fields at the premises known as and numbered 171 VFW Drive and 216 Pleasant Street, Rockland, Massachusetts. 171 Rockland, Massachusetts. 171 VFW Drive is located in the B2 Business Zoning District, section 415-14 of the bylaw, and is further identified as lot 34, map 29 on the Rockland Assessors maps. The owner of the property is Rockland Station LLC, 171 VFW Drive, Rockland, Mass. 216 Pleasant Street is located in the B2 zoning district, section 415-14 of the bylaw, and is further identified as lot 29, map 24 on the Rockland Assessors maps. The owner of the property is Pleasant Street Realty Trust, 171 VFW Drive, Rockland, Mass. The applicant and all interested parties are advised to check the town website and the zoning board's webpage for additional information. Okay, let's see. Rad, who's here from Rad to address the board?
Yeah, my name is Sean. I'm Sean Boyd with RAD. I am a project manager and civil engineer with RAD.
Okay.
And I can let me share my screen and I can pull up the site map to help better show everybody the project.
Okay.
Is that visible for everybody?
It is, but is there any way to darken up the existing conditions? You can barely see it.
It can zoom in a little bit. Is that
Ugh. Okay,
Is that a little better?
not really.
So I'll try my best to orientate everybody to the property. So right here, along where my cursor is going back and forth is Pleasant Street. If I move to the front, this is VFW Drive. This is our current building that is constructed on the property. This is our current entrance off of VFW Drive. And I'll zoom out just to give everybody a sense of the full property. You can see here, as you follow my cursor, is the full property with the easement off of Pleasant Street as well. So to continue with the proposed project, we are proposing to construct a 35,000 square foot building. As Rob, as you had mentioned, this is for housing some of our equipment that is currently stored outside that we'd like to bring inside, especially for the winter months, as well as the processing of existing synthetic turf fields to support our current business. All of that work would take place in this box here, in this proposed 35,000 square foot building, metal building with a concrete foundation, open warehouse style building with a couple of small bathrooms and a small office that would be located in the corner. We are showing, per the request of the fire department, we are showing 2 emergency access gates off of Pleasant Street, one here and one here, which would allow emergency access to travel around the building off and onto Pleasant Street. For our use, all of this access would be taking place off of VFW Drive through our existing gate, and trucks would travel through our current property as they do today to the back of the building, where they would be offloaded and loaded, and then continue as they do today out through VFW Drive. The synthetic turf processing would involve separating all of the components that make up synthetic turf, the sand, the rubber, the backing, and the fiber. Each of those materials, once separated, would then be recycled. In part of them, the sand and rubber would be recycled into new synthetic turf fields that we currently build. And other parts are the plastic and the backing would be recycled into the market for the plastic recycling market. This would be a huge improvement to our current business and to the industry in general. We are, per the application, we've identified how we are meeting all of the current town standards with setback requirements, and I can go through each one. But all the dimensional requirements are met per the plan. The 10 and 20-foot landscape buffers, the on-site access is proposed all to remain on site off of VFW Drive. We did meet with, I should say, we did have conversations with sewer and water, and actually found the existing water line that was used for the existing structure on 216 Pleasant. The water department came out and turned that on and showed that it worked. We found the existing sewer stub for that as well. And those tie-ins would be designed and incorporated into the site plan review process. The site plan review process would also include a full stormwater design showing how the property and the proposed improvements would meet stormwater standards, as well as that process would show erosion control, making sure that there would be no adverse site impacts from erosion and construction of the project. All deliveries would be received off the streets, so no deliveries would take place on Pleasant Street or VFW. All of them would be inside our property. Site security lighting would be used, as well as shielded for off-site glare. And we do not affect any steep slopes or environmental wetlands or any of those buffers. with that, I'd welcome any questions and discussion.
Alrighty, so when it came down to your first submission, I ran through that plan and gave you a list of things that I need you to take care of. Can you show me where the easement, the limits are, that you were talking about?
Yep, this easement here off of Pleasant Street, is that the one you're referring to?
That's one. Where are the limits to the easement?
I believe this whole section here is the easement from Pleasant
Where
Street.
does it stop?
That's something I will have to confirm.
See, this is why, I gave you a major list of things that needed to be taken care of on this plan, so that's number one. Number two, there's an easement over 216 Pleasant Street. I believe it's a right of way. It's not shown on your plan. This is why I asked. So what you're proposing to do is do things in an easement that, do you know who has rights to this easement?
I'm sorry?
Do you know who has rights to the easement?
I don't. That's something we'll have to look into on 216.
This is why I asked to have that all addressed. And there are a number of other issues with this plan. One of them being that everything on the existing conditions is so light, you can't read it. The zoning board for the town of Rockland has come to enjoy the fact that we get very professional submissions. This is why I kind of like ripped into the plan. There were a lot of deficiencies with this plan. It's just not up to the snuff that we're used to getting. Were you able to have it resurveyed?
Yes, we did. We used the gentleman, John Romanelli, to survey the property limits and to survey
John Romanelli?
Yes, yep.
What company does he work for?
I was Romanelli Associates, but I believe he sold that to another business. I'd have to confirm the new business name.
Okay, I'd like to know who the registered land surveyor is that did the work, because last I knew, Mr. Romanelli is not licensed.
Okay, the plant is stamped
By
Jonathan Pink.
Okay, that's fine. Again, what was the name of the company?
I'll confirm. I know it. We used to deal with Romanelli Associates, but I believe he sold that business to another company, and I will confirm that company's name.
Okay, and that was another thing. I had asked that name be on the plan. So did you not put that on the plan?
No, that is here.
Okay.
Zenith Land Surveyors is the company he sold to.
Okay. All right. So again, there are some deficiencies on this plan that from a presentation standpoint, it's just not up to the snuff that this board is used to seeing.
Okay.
That's number one. Number two, as a part of the application, you're supposed to submit any previous special permit decisions on the properties. Did you do that?
No, I don't believe that was done.
Why not? It's part of the application. You're supposed to do that.
We were unaware of any that were there, but we'll look them up and make sure that they get submitted.
There's three, man. All right, and just so we're clear, I have all three of them. If you didn't know about these, you should look at the most recent one. Conditions. If you wanna see some of these conditions and what we said, you should really get these special permit decisions. Number one, there shall be no manufacturing, processing of products on this lot 216 Pleasant Street.
Okay.
That kind of squashes what you want to do right there. You know what I mean? I mean, that's number one. Let's see, what was the other one? Hours of operation, there shall be no vehicular or pedestrian access to or from Pleasant Street. So right there with those two, just with those two conditions that were granted in 2016, you're asking us to go against conditions that this board has already granted. You know, you're asking, there are conditions that this board has already come up with. So right there, that kind of, that leaves me in a very bad place. Because as a part of the application, you were supposed to submit these, you didn't, which means you didn't look at these, which means that we're looking at, I don't know how this can go, knowing that there's this kind of issues with the property. That's just the start of it. From there, you can't put a building over the property lines.
Right. We are in the process right now of combining those. The two owners are separate companies. The
Yep.
deed has been revised
Yep.
to combine, make it the same owner,
Okay,
and then we'll need to file an A&R to remove those
resolve the
interior-
property lines.
Right, resolve the property lines.
No,
And then I guess
dissolve.
we would then have to have conversations regarding I would assume the conditions would then follow through.
It's, put it this way, the conditions as written. There shall be no vehicular or pedestrian access to or from Pleasant Street. It doesn't give specific addresses. So it's
Yeah.
not, we're not talking, we're not talking just a certain piece of property. It's telling you that you can't access Pleasant Street.
Okay.
So, and this is where I'm having a hard time, because we've already said that you can't do it, but yet now you have you have 2 points of egress. Emergency egress, and I dig that. I understand that. But
Right.
this is, I personally am having a hard time with this, knowing that again, it's an incomplete application. The plan is deficient compared to what we're used to seeing. Other than that, I can continue to dig into this, but I don't know if it's really necessary at this point. Because I've been doing all the talking, and I think the rest of the board should really get a crack at this. Board members, you ready? I'll start calling your names. Here we go. Mr. Baker says, Mr. Baker Senior. You have any questions for the applicant?
Yes, Rob, that decision for the access, would that also mean that they can't access that Pleasant Street lot through their other lot? The Rad lot?
Again, what was happening was when they came to us, they wanted to do storage. They wanted to tear down the house and they wanted to just store materials on that piece of property. That's all they wanted to do. All right. And we had some people that were concerned. So what we said was, you can use it for the storage, because that's not something that you can that you would typically be able to do, but you can do it, but you just can't access Pleasant Street. So, we barred the access for the sheer fact that they were going to only be using it for storage for the main, for the big parcel.
That was the only question I had.
Thank you, Mr. Baker Senior. Mr. Tanzi, talk to me, sir.
What type of noise levels would we expect to be generated from these, from the equipment inside the building to what type of vehicular dropping off and transporting out of, off the site materials would we expect to be generated by this operation?
Yeah. So the receiving and loading out of materials would be very similar to what the property experiences today with trucks and backup alarms that are currently present. The operation itself for processing the existing synthetic turf is all housed inside except for a filter system that would be housed outside. And the noise level of that would be, a small garden equipment, lawnmower type, power washer type noise level. We are proposing to put on the Pleasant Street side, we are proposing to put a barrier, sound barrier around that unit to mitigate any other, any potential noise that would make offensive noise off property.
And how often, how many hours a day will that filter be running?
During the standard business hours. Only when the operation itself is running during business hours.
I don't have any other questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate that. Mr. Baker Jr., talk to me, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is to either Mr. Boyd or to the applicant, whoever prefers to answer the question. Mr. Boyd gave somewhat of a description of the manufacturing process that's intended to take place if this application were granted. Can somebody tell me what, if any, are the byproducts of this manufacturing process? Let's start with solid. Any solid byproduct? Or I guess another way of putting it would be any solid waste.
No, so we are proposing to recycle the entire system. There will be residual waste that will, as part of any process that we will have to collect in the filter bags, and those will have to be disposed of. But we did receive a Mass DEP permit for recycling, and there are thresholds that we cannot exceed a certain amount of waste as part of that process that we have to document with Mass DEP, and we will stay under all of those thresholds. The main parts of the system, the sand, the rubber, the green plastic, the fiber, and the backing are all being processed and recycled.
But getting back to the question of waste, what solid waste? You told me how you planned on getting rid of it. What solid waste is being gotten rid of?
It's residuals for just contaminates from when you clean the process. If there's any debris or dirt within the synthetic turf itself, that would be washed in that would be the solid waste that we would be disposing of.
Okay, are we talking chemicals? Are we talking any
No.
dangerous? Well, you alarmed me a bit when you referred to them as contaminants. That's why I asked.
No,
So we're talking about ferrous metals, bobby pins, pen caps, bubble gum, dirt that comes off of players tracking onto a field.
Okay.
Nothing besides that.
Typically, when we hear the word contaminants, we're talking about antifreeze. We're talking about oil. You know what I mean? That's
No.
when that's
Nothing like that.
Okay.
that's where he's getting concerned, and I agree with him. Man, it's
Correct.
it's-
No,
it's
nothing of that effect.
All right. So what about any liquid waste or byproducts?
no.
None.
Okay. Any vaporous or gaseous byproducts?
No.
Okay. And what about airborne?
No, the only airborne would be anything the exhaust through the filter bags, and that would only be it.
Okay. Just a follow-up question on the issue of recycling, particularly recycling plastic. Every time I read an article about recycling, one of the things that almost invariably appears in that article is a notation that the market for plastic recycling, I don't want to say is non-existent, but it's a weak market to the extent that many municipalities and other entities that generate plastic waste end up dumping it rather than recycling. Can you give me a little information on what you project or what you've been told or what you know the market would be for that material?
Yeah, certainly. That market is growing. A lot of the states, particularly California, is leading that charge that the new plastic products will have to be made up of a certain percentage of recycled plastic. And that is what is driving that market to grow. And we're trying to be in front of that and have explored with different vendors that market and feel very confident in being able to to recycle the plastic that we will have.
Okay, is there a contingency plan if the anticipated market doesn't develop as to how the plastic that you can't sell is going to be gotten rid of?
Yeah,
Yes.
so right now we would also be able to send it back to the manufacturer.
Okay. And that's an arrangement that's already been established contractually, or?
Yeah, we've already done it. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
We have been for a few years.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baker Jr. Mr. Galley, you're up.
Oh, you're muted, Steve.
There we go.
My turn?
Gotcha.
Good, okay, good. Oh, okay, hopefully I'm not making too much noise. I was gonna ask what Greg was gonna ask, but I'll ask again and further. We didn't get an answer on like how much noise the dust collection system actually makes. And I was wondering if it's gonna be muffled by the enclosure, is it like a soundproof enclosure, or is it just like a weather enclosure that really isn't designed for soundproofing? That's what I was wondering. The numbers on that.
It would be an enclosure with sound barrier on it. And to give you an example of the noise, the adjacent property, the adjacent plastic company that's next door has a similar exhaust unit on the outside of their building, and it wouldn't be any louder than that unit that's currently there today.
Okay. I got to follow up then for the chairman. If noise was an issue, is that something that like the building inspector or the health department would have to address if it was excessive noise?
I'm gonna ask Mr. Rubel to jump in and answer that question. Mr. Rubel, you got your ears on? Give me a second.
Yeah, we don't have anything unless it's in the performance standards. And we have nothing. You can ask Mr. Galvin on that, because I just seen something in regards to noise. And there is a state law, but as far as the town goes, we have nothing. Can you both say something about that, Bob? Mr. Galvin?
Steve, mute yourself.
Yep.
Attorney Galvin, did you hear that request? We're looking at noise performance standards when it comes right down to it. And the last I knew, that was a Board of Health situation.
Rob, did you just ask me a question?
Oh,
I
yeah,
couldn't hear?
okay, there we go. Yeah, did, Tom asked about performance standards when it comes to noise standards.
Yes.
And is that under the Board of Health, or is that under Building Department? Thought it was under Board of Health.
Only 3 or 4 uses in towns have noise standards: kennels, windmills, and things of that nature.
Okay.
There are no local noise standards in our zoning bylaws. There is a state noise ordinance regulation, and it's enforced by DEP. Sometimes our Board of Health would use it to determine whether there's a nuisance, but that's the reality. There's nothing in our zoning bylaw that, other than it relates to dog kennels and windmills, that creates a basis to regulate noise.
Okay. Steve, that answer your question? Yes? All right. Mr. Rubel, I'm coming to you, sir. What, you have anything to talk to or talk about or ask the applicant?
No, thank you, Bob. I would say that as long as they get the site plan, if it gets approved, we have the site plan review. Other than that, I have nothing.
Yeah, that was the other question I had for you. We're definitely sending this to site plan approval.
That's right.
Okay, just wanted to make sure on that. Attorney Galvin, did you have anything to talk about on this?
No.
All right, can I add, I have a question that I can address to you.
Of course.
Again, in our 2016 special permit, there were conditions that were, there were conditions that were put in there.
Yeah.
And what this application is doing is going directly against those. So how do we handle, I don't see how we can handle this or allow this, because we already said that we can't do it.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you. For some reason, it must be my computer.
In the 2000, there was a 2016 special permit that was
Yep.
granted.
Yep.
In the conditions, there's two specific conditions that negate this entire application. Number one, they can't access, one of the conditions was they can't access this site from Pleasant Street. The second one was there shall, where was it? There shall be no manufacturing, processing of products on this lot 216 Pleasant Street.
Those are
So-
conditions that the board has the authority to continue to uphold if you think it will adversely impact the neighborhood, or those are conditions that you have the authority to approve, subject to additional conditions. Maybe
But-
circumstances have changed, maybe they've appropriately buffered it. Maybe they're proposing to do it in a manner that the board finds acceptable, but that is, all of that is entirely within the discretion of the board.
I appreciate that, sir. Thank you.
Yep.
Let's see. At this point, I can open it up to the general public. Is there anybody in the general public that wants to speak in favor of the application? Please raise your hand and we will see you and we can hear from you. And I'm going back and forth between two screens here. I see no one raising their hand. Is there anybody that wants to speak opposed to this application? And going between two screens here. Do I see anybody? I've got Leandro Costa. You're on
Yes.
mute, sir. There we go. Yeah, again, and name and address for the record.
Leandro Costa, 219 Pleasant Street.
Thank you, sir. So what's your general concern at this point?
So most of the questions you addressed already, so I thank you for that. But my main question is, how is this going to be recycled exactly? Can you give us a description of what exactly is being done?
Yeah, yes, certainly. So the synthetic turf components, the sand and the rubber, are going to be recycled into future synthetic turf fields. The plastic and backing is going to be recycled back into the recycled plastic market, which makes lumber deck, plastic lumber or plastic Adirondack chairs or other plastic uses that are in the market.
And is any washing of any sorts getting done inside of that facility?
Yes, there is a wash system that is a recycled system. So it is not using town water constantly. It's a gallon, a 200-gallon tank that will continuously recycle itself through a filter as it washes the debris we talked about earlier, gum or bobby pins or other materials from the carpet, from the synthetic turf system.
And where does this water go?
It's recycled. It recycles itself. So the water will go through a filter, and then that clean water will go back into the tank to then go through that process again.
Okay. It's just a little hard to believe that you're gonna continuously use water for an indefinite period of time. At PFAS a concern? PFAS?
We are not using any PFAS in the process for recycling the materials. Those
Well,
materials.
Is a synthetic turf known for having PFAS?
There are some synthetic turf manufacturers that use PFAS in the production of synthetic turf. However, the products themselves are not made up of any PFAS chemicals that are on the California Prop 65.
So I spoken to I done my research. I spoken to a few people on the subject, and if you Google synthetic turf and PFAS, I guarantee you probably be your first top two results. It's known to be there. Every quarter or whatever it is, I get that notice. I think we all get that notice in the mail telling us how don't drink the water, can't drink the water. And now synthetic turf recycling in Rockland, how is that a good idea?
Can I interject here?
Absolutely.
Sean, do me a favor.
Yeah.
How many components are there in one section of turf? How many different components are there?
There's four. There's the sand, the rubber, the fiber itself, and the backing.
Okay, so what you're proposing to do is take that one, let's just say one piece of turf and separate it back into those four pieces.
Correct.
Okay, what's gonna happen to the backing?
It's going to go back into the recycled plastic market along with the
Okay.
fiber.
All right, so recycled plastic market for the backing, the fiber itself that's going into the recycled plastic itself. And what were the other two? I'm sorry, what were the other two pieces?
The sand and rubber infill are going to be reused in future synthetic turf fields that we build.
Okay, so basically, and again, I'm just trying to make sure that I understand this, because we talk about washing and this, that, the other thing. None of that water is going to make it back into our drainage system, into our groundwater, into anything, regardless of what it has into it.
Correct.
Okay. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do with those filters? I mean, you said it runs through filters and stuff like that.
Correct.
Those filters are gonna have to be disposed of properly, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And then the water itself, there's no way that you are going to be using the same water, forever. You're gonna have to refill.
Right.
But you're never going to, are you ever going to be draining that water?
No, we will not. We will dispose of that properly through an environmental company. It will not go back into catch basins or into the ground.
Mr. Costa, I think that's where you were going with your communication. I wanted to make sure that I got that right. Is that correct?
That is correct. Thank you.
Wait, sir. I apologize. I didn't want to break in because I know you had a point to make. I was kind of trying to help you get there.
You got that better. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about, Mr. Costa?
One last question is fumes. What is worst case scenario? Your filtration system fails. What kind of fumes are we talking here?
If the filters are not working properly, then the system would not operate until the filters are fixed and replaced.
Right, but worst case, somebody comes in. Oh, we noticed the filter hasn't been working. We release fumes out in the air. What are we talking? How dangerous?
It's the same. It would be the amount of it's a dryer is what it is. It dries the material. So exhaust for industrial laundromat type of situation is what that exhaust would be. It's a drying exhaust, a dryer exhaust.
So a safe drying exhaust that needs to be filtered doesn't make sense.
It cleans any of that exhaust material that comes out of the dryer, so that it's cleaner than when it would go in.
He's got with his analogy, what he's saying is that it's no different than the lint filters on your dryer. So what that filter is picking up is any of the small particles that would come out of a normal dryer situation, like the lint.
Correct.
Which that gets all caught up in your lint filter, and you have to go out and you have to pull it out and this, that, the other thing. I'm only assuming that's what we're saying. I think what Mr. Costa is looking at is, would there be any noxious fumes coming out of the system?
No, we're not burning any material. We're not melting. It's just simply dry. It doesn't get hotter than your oven that you have in your kitchen.
And would there be any kind of aroma that's coming out? I mean, is that Pleasant Street area gonna smell like a Chinese food restaurant?
No.
No? Okay, so that's fine. I like Chinese food, but it's just that the point is that it's noxious fumes or any kind of aroma that comes out is gonna, would potentially be annoying to anybody that lives around there. Mr. Costa, was that again kind of where you were going?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Not a problem, sir. Not a problem. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about, sir?
I'm okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Costa. Is there anybody else that wants to wants to speak either in favor or opposed before I go back to the board members? Going back and forth, back and forth. I see. Don't make me pronounce that.
Vecchione?
Vecchione.
Yeah.
What's a name and address for the record, ma'am?
Katie Vecchione and 215 Pleasant Street.
Katie, talk to me. What concerns do
So
you have?
I'm with also my neighbors who are 4 houses up, Nancy
237.
at 237 Pleasant Street. So we have a couple questions. First, how tall is the building?
It is roughly 35 feet tall. It's just under the zoning requirement.
Okay, and then any plans to fix the fence, because the fence has been in disrepair for a while, with multiple requests to fix that. Is there any plans to fix the surrounding landscape?
On Pleasant Street.
Yes, as part of this project, we would be fixing any damage that is currently there or is damaged in the fence.
What kind of smell?
And we're also concerned about the smell and the dust. It's already been mentioned, I know, along with the access and manufacturing already being on the other permits. So we are against it here as residents on Pleasant Street. And then we were also concerned about if the construction does happen, start times. You guys are out there at 6 a.m. banging metal around. So we would appreciate maybe a later start time, 7 a.m. if construction does begin.
Yeah, we can accommodate 7 a.m.
We also are concerned about the machine noise. I know it's already been discussed, but I had gone back and forth with Polymer for years on their machine. They just got a new machine recently just because the noise was so bad. So that would definitely be something we would want to make sure was addressed properly. Anything else, yes? I think that's all for us.
Just the smell.
And the smell, we're also worried about the
Yeah,
smell.
what kind of smell? It's gonna smell like it,
Again, the applicant,
paper mill?
the applicant has stated that there will be no smell coming from the exhaust fans.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not a problem, not a problem. Is there anybody else that wants to speak either in favor or opposed before I go back to the board members? Seeing none, I'm gonna go back to Mr. Baker Senior. I saw you waving your hand, sir.
A couple of questions related to Bob Jr.'s questions about the recycling. The turf material, that gets painted, lines in it and stuff. What happens to that paint when you bring it back to get recycled? And what is that? Is that latex paint or is it a oil-based paint?
That paint would be in parts of the turf. It is part of the plastic. Before it's coming back to our facility, we would brush as much off as we possibly can, and then as part of that water process, it would wash into that. It would get collected by the filter, and the filter would be disposed of, and then the water again would then be recycled into the tank.
And one other question, where is the loading docks gonna be for this building?
It would all be on the back side, the opposite end of the building from Pleasant Street, internal to our property.
And one other thing from the people on Pleasant Street, that area where the fence is now, are you gonna clean that all up, get rid of all the weeds and, dress that up nice?
Yes, yep.
Okay, because
Yeah, we can add a landscape buffer along that stretch as part of this project.
yeah, I don't think you'd want to put grass there, but because when they plow the streets, the salt will get in it and kill it anyway. But, maybe a couple of arborvitaes there with some yearly mulch, and, clean it, keep it clean. I think it would be a big difference in the neighborhood with that being cleaned up.
Yes, we could definitely make that part of this project.
Okay. And one other thing, Rob, if we could have Sean get together with the highway superintendent, 'cause
Mhm.
we did get a letter from him. And you could, it'd probably be easier to have him do a visit with him,
Mhm.
either on site or to discuss his concerns.
Now, again, in the grand scheme of things, this is still gonna have to go through site plan approval. This is not even close to the level of plan work that's gonna be required to go to the planning board.
Right.
This for us is just showing that they're thinking about it, thinking about the different, the different pieces that they're gonna have to show to the planning board. One of the things that I'm looking at, and maybe somebody has to remind me, the driveway access around the building, does that need a 10-foot buffer?
We're showing a 10-foot buffer from the edge of the pavement to the property line.
Okay, because I don't see a dimension on that.
Yeah, I can pull it. I mean, we can add a dimension. I know in CAD it has a 10-foot buffer from the edge of, that's per the standard, the bylaw.
That's fine. Believe me, as someone who operates AutoCAD every day, I understand. But the thing is that it's not shown. So I'm looking at this and I feel that there's a lot of deficiencies to this plan just to come to us. Existing the existing parking. I had asked about, where you're going to park vehicles. You came back with you're going to utilize existing parking. Well, I don't see where that is. When you zoom in super tight, and I see something that does say existing vehicle parking, but when you go to Google Earth current pictures, that's not where people are parking. So it's like there's some things on here that don't make sense, because when you go to current, because again, this was resurveyed, so this should be current to current aerial photography. It really isn't. So I don't know, again, I don't know what level of actual survey your new surveyor, went to, because again, I'm looking at features that were on that last plan that you showed us prior to. So I feel that there's so I feel that this plan is deficient. And I would like to see a better rendition of this plan, showing the appropriate buffers. But again, that's only my opinion. I don't know if the rest of the board feels the same way. There's a lot of things on here that I'm not really thrilled with. So I would leave that up to I would ask the board at this point. I'm asking the board at this point if they feel that they can make a decision based on this plan tonight, or do we need this plan kind of brought up to a standard that we're used to getting? So I am board members, Greg Tansey, talk to me, vice chair.
Well, yeah, I think you brought up a very good point about easements and where they are. I was not really comfortable not seeing those easements clearly defined, and just to make sure that the people who have rights in those easements, their rights aren't infringed, that they have the access that they need in order to maintain or access, or whatever the purpose of those easements are. I just really want to know more about that, see them on the plan, and make sure that they haven't been infringed upon.
Not knowing what it's for or who has rights to it, that right there, that says it. So that makes me a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I butted in, Greg. I apologize.
No, that's fine. So I mean I would like to see the things get cleared up that we had asked for previously.
Okay.
Show on the plan.
Mr. Baker Jr., I know you were starting to raise your hand. I apologize. I went to Greg first. He was first in line, so.
No, he was, and that's, no, I just wanted to say, I'm not adding anything substantive, but I agree, based on the information that you've provided, that Mr. Tansey has provided, that Mr. Baker has provided, that Mr. Galley has provided. I think that we need that level of detail and information that's been identified and requested tonight in order to make a decision. So my short answer to your question is no, I'm not prepared to go forward on what's
And
before us.
again, I want to reiterate, I've said this before, I've said this in informal discussion with this. We're not looking for a final plan. I don't want to see your drainage calculations, all right? I know you're going to have to provide them. I don't want to see them. I don't need to know where your drainage system is going to go. You've already told us that you are going to provide them. That's for the planning board and their review consultant to go over. We know you're going to have to do it. So, I mean, that's not something that we have to look at. There are things that we do need to kind of see on here. Mr. Baker Senior, talk to me, sir. What do you think? Are you able to make a decision tonight?
Not at all.
All right, Mr. Galley, what do you think?
Well, I agree with the flavor of the board on that. I cannot make a decision on that, and I don't want to dogpile, but I do want to reinforce the comment on the plan. When I first looked at it, I thought that the light pattern was something printed on the back, like it was double-sided, and I flipped it over, couldn't read the back. So then I thought, oh, well, this must have been ink that dried from when it was folded, and it was just so faint because it was dried up ink, you know, from a really wet printout, but that wasn't the case. So that's just to illustrate how poorly it is to read the light parts of the site plan. I just want to, I'm not trying to dogpile. I'm just trying to make it clear how illegible that information was. And that's all I have to say. I agree. I cannot make a judgment at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Gallen. I would entertain a motion to continue this public
Mr.
hearing.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to continue the public hearing for 171 BFW 216 Pleasant Street to
right now, we'll just say a date and time specific.
I'd have to see
right
when,
now. For
we
right
have to
now,
ask them.
because I have to go to the applicant to Mr. Boyd and say, you hear where we're coming from?
Yes, yeah, we will address these comments.
How long do you think it's gonna take to deal with the drafting edits, to deal with the, basically, again, it's just, we're used to seeing a very well-drafted plan, and there's some issues here. How long do you think it'll take you to bring this up?
I'd say it would take us about a week.
Okay, so if we said we'll go 30 days, Deb, where would that bring us?
30 days, we could do the 21st. We could also do the 7th of May. Well, 30 days to be the 21st, allowing for review of the plans.
Yeah, that's it. See, that's the other thing that we're gonna have. I would be okay with a week, no less than a week of review on this. Board members, I know we usually do 2 weeks. That's for initial submissions. Would you be okay with a week review? Since this is a continuance, would you be okay with that? Okay. So again, Mr. Boyd, you would have to get plans to the board at least a week in advance of the hearing, which gives you let's call it 3 weeks worth of edit time. If that works for you, we can do that. We can give you we can do. Deb, what do you want to do? The 7th?
We could do the 7th if they can get the plans in by, they'd have to be in by like the 29th or 30th.
Mr. Boyd?
Yeah, we can accommodate if we are able to get the plans in by the 22nd, 23rd. Do we have to set the date now, or do we
This whole thing, basically we have to be able to continue to a date and time specific. And in order to do that, there are other things that your submission has to be in a week prior to that. So that technically doesn't give you 30 days to really do the revisions. That cuts down your review time. In the end, you're gonna have to coordinate with your land surveyor to have him restamp the plan.
Yeah.
There's other things that always tie into it. That's why I always look at 30 days and I know that it's sometimes it's tight. 30 days is tight, especially when you're dealing with a secondary company that is providing service.
So I think we will aim to have everything in by the 29th to 30th.
So if that's
To
the
be-
case, then Deb, are we saying May 7th at 7:30?
No, there's a hearing already scheduled for 7:30.
So what do you want?
Right after that, it's a continuance.
It's a continuance. You want to just give them 7:45?
Okay.
All right. Not knowing if the continuance is gonna go quick. Mr. Baker, do you wanna amend your motion?
I'll amend the motion to continue the public hearing to May 7th at 7:45.
Do I get a second?
Second the motion.
I get a second. Roll call. Mr. Tanzi?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Mr. Baker Jr.?
Yes.
Mr. Galley?
Yes.
Mr. Baker Senior?
Yes.
All righty, sir. All right, so we're gonna continue this to May 7th. Mr. Boyd, do me a favor and get in contact with Deb. I wanna take a look at that. I wanna make sure that you got all my comments from the original plan, and I wanna make sure that all of those comments are addressed. Because the other thing that you gotta look at is that you're trying to put a building over a property line. And I know you had said that you're looking to do an A&R plan to formally dissolve that property line to make this one giant piece of property. When do you think you can have that done?
Yeah, I'll follow up with Deb tomorrow and be able to get her those answers.
Yeah, and that would be something that would be nice, that if it was taken care of, prior to our meeting, then
Okay.
we could look at that and say, well, we have no problems with it. And it might be able to go smoother. I don't know. It really depends on how this plan shapes up. But it would be one less thing on your plate that you would have to kind of contend with. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah.
Either
No,
way,
we
you got to go to the planning board. So
Correct. We appreciate your comments and we'll make sure to address them.
not a problem. Mr. Boyd, thank you very much. I think we're going to go on to the next meeting if it's ready to go. Let's see. What do we got here? There's a new agenda. Let's see what we got for an agenda here. 7:35, right after. Okay, perfect. Here we go. 7:35 p.m. Remotely conducted public hearing will be held by the Rockland Zoning Board of Appeals on Tuesday, April 16, 2024 at 7:35 p.m. on the application submitted by Melissa McInnes and Dennis Espinoit, 421 Forest Street, Rockland, Mass, care of Scott Golding Esquire, Dorian Taccio, and Morgan PC, 175 Derby Street, Hingham, Mass, for a use variance pursuant to zoning bylaws, section 415.89.1. Zoning variances and a special permit pursuant to zoning bylaws, section 415-29 and 415-89, number of buildings on a single lot to allow applicant to maintain the existing 758 square foot single-family dwelling within the R2 portion of the lot and construct a 2,250 square plus or minus square foot warehouse/storage building with accessory parking to be sited entirely within the I-1 portion of the property with proposed fencing, planted buffer, and planted buffer area to provide enhanced separations between the existing dwelling and proposed structure. The proposed warehouse/storage building is to be accessed by an existing gravel driveway off of VFW Drive. The property is located in both the R2 residence zoning district, section 415-9, and the I-1 limited industrial zoning district, section 415-15 of the zoning bylaw, and is identified as lot 79, map 14 on the Rockland Assessors maps. The owners of the property are Melissa McInnes and Dennis Espinoit, 421 Forest Street, Rockland, Massachusetts. The applicant and all interested parties are advised to check the town website and the zoning board's webpage for additional information. Okay. So, let's see, who am I looking at? Hey, Dennis. Gotta turn your mic on, Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, Scott Golding for the applicant, and like you saw, Mr. Benoit and Melissa McGinnis are also here as well.
Yes, no, I saw him. All right, Attorney Golding, talk to me. What are we planning on doing here?
So, like you said in the introduction, we are seeking relief, use variance in order to maintain the existing single-family dwelling, which is located within the residential portion of the lot, as well as to construct a new moderate-sized 2,250 square foot warehouse building in the I-1 limited industrial portion of the property. I think it would probably be helpful if I put up a GIS map just to kind of familiarize everybody with the property.
Sure.
Do that. And can everyone see that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. This is the subject property. It's 421 Forest Street. This is the existing single-family dwelling. It's on Forest Street. Forest Street was developed and laid out in 1953. It's kind of characterized as uniform single-family dwellings that were developed at that time period. Subsequently, the FW Parkway was, there was a taking and relaid out, which divided a series of these lots, including the subject property 421. Originally, as currently deeded, is a single lot here, but it was bisected by the taking. That happened in 1960. In 1961, there was a zoning change to create the I-1 zone in this area on either side of the FW Parkway. I can pull up the zoning map, but I'll just leave this up for now. But essentially, the limited industrial zone runs on the back of these lots that are on Forest and all the way to the corner there. So it basically splits. It's consistent with these. So this is all industrial. These are residential, but the remaining lots here are split in half. So the neighborhood itself, because of the development pattern and that the zoning with the split lots is characterized by, these are off of Forest, some undersized lots. These 5 lots, for example, are all 1,000 or 11,250 square feet, and the houses were all built in 1954. If you go behind, you've got the existing brewery. That's 21,000 square feet. You've got a accessory dwelling unit back here. You've got a approximately 3-acre contractor yard here, and then you've got the a construction yard here, warehouse, and you've got approximately 30 to 40 containers here. Sorry. So when you look at the kind of the development of the neighborhood, there are very few dual access lots within this area so that have developed. So the subject property of 421 Forest Street is the largest dual access lot that has frontage and access to Forest as well as VFW Drive. There are other lots here. There are wetlands present in this area. This is town property, and this area is characterized. There is actually guardrail and a significant grade change that kind of goes off along those properties to the east. So, the applicants purchased this property in 2018. They've done some work on the property. In 2019, prior to cutting any trees, they went to the Conservation Commission. They got a negative determination of applicability. They also got a street opening permit to install an access off of the FW Parkway. Those were both signed off. They subsequently did clearing work in the back of the yard. There was, from what I understand, there was a lot of kind of older trees not in very good shape, as well as there was mattresses and a bunch of junk, and there was an abandoned car. So that was one of the reasons for doing that work. So then I'll switch back over here. So I will present what we are currently asking for.
Attorney Golden, can I interrupt real quick?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, you had said that prior the applicant had gone to the Conservation Commission and they got a negative determination. Is that what they got?
It's, to clarify, they got a negative determination in 2019 prior to cutting any trees.
Prior to cutting
Not for this project. Not for this project.
Okay,
Just to be
but
clear.
was that to construct the access off of?
That was for the access and to do some tree clearing in the yard. So, but yes, to provide the access.
Okay.
And it's in a gravel parking area as well, was part of the
permits pulled for
application.
that?
What was that?
Were permits pulled for that?
Yes.
There were permits issued that we can provide the board.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that would have been,
We have a copy of the negative determination and the street opening permit. We can submit those as well.
Okay, no, that's fine. Yeah, because I did see the permit, I did see the street opening permit that the highway superintendent put in. I saw that today, so I know that exists. I apologize. There's been questions as to whether there was any permits actually pulled to do any of the drainage work and the filling and all that. So that's why I wanted to kind of just clear that up.
It was to create the access. So we can provide the board copies of those permits.
Okay.
I will, unfortunately, Jeff Hassett had a prior commitment this evening, but I will do my best to run you all through the plan and the proposed project.
Okay, and I'm gonna stop you real quick. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to zoom into his stamp on the plan, please.
Take me. Okay, more than that?
No, that's fine. Something's wrong with that.
All right, that's shifting a little off. Okay.
Shifting a little off. Anybody that's in this business knows that that's completely and totally fake. So it makes me feel like the licensed engineer who's stamping all these plans and technically violating state law by stamping an existing conditions plan, because a civil engineer can't stamp an existing conditions plan. It feels to me like the civil engineer who's certifying all this hasn't even looked at it. He's not even looking at his own stamp. I know it's a digital stamp. I know that for a fact. And that's completely allowable by state law. But right off the bat, I see that, and that itself is a violation of state law. There's very specific laws and requirements for just the stamp for professionals. That's a violation. And he did it how many times? I see 6 sheets. So I got a problem with that. So that's telling me that your civil engineer didn't even look at these plans. So I just wanted to point that out.
That will, I appreciate that, and I will certainly, I will follow up on that.
Okay, appreciate that.
Issue. I was just obviously unaware of that. I certainly would not have submitted anything that I was aware that there was an issue with. So.
Knowing the reputation of your firm, I understand, sir. I agree. I completely and totally understand.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, I'm sorry, I didn't, obviously, I kind of.
Nope, absolutely fine. So, okay. So just to run you through the proposed project, just to orient you, Forest Street at the top, VFW Drive at the bottom. This is the existing single-family dwelling with the existing driveway. Nothing is proposed to change in that area. There is stockade fence in this area. The proposed project is to construct a 2,250 square foot warehouse storage building. It has 6 parking spaces along the side. The storage building is centrally located on the lot. It's 27 feet from each side. It's also 73 feet from, this is the zoning line here. So this is the limited industrial and the residential on this side. So it's 73 feet to the building and 30 feet to the closest parking space. All access will be from VFW Drive. The parking spaces are set back 10 feet from the side yard setback and 30 feet from here. We are proposing to fit plant 15 giant green arborvitae to create a buffer to the residential neighbors on Forest Street, as well as to maintain the existing stockade fence. Both of the uses, so the single family dwelling use is an allowed use in the residential zone, and the warehouse storage use is an allowed use in the limited industrial zone. So we are seeking relief for the number of buildings on a single lot. So in the residential, a residential lot can only have a single principal building. And in the industrial zone, by special permit, it can have more than one building. So in order to make this project work, we're seeking relief to allow for the 2 buildings on this lot. But the uses themselves are allowed within the zone. And like I said, the access for those uses will be through frontage within the appropriate zone, residential through the residential, and this warehouse is through the industrial zone with frontage on VFW Drive. So they've talked about, they really want this use, and so they're trying to figure out a way to kind of retain the house. And obviously it's been a long time, like 70 years, part of the fabric of Forest. So, and it would kind of create a potential gap within the residential neighborhood. So that's the reason that we're seeking relief, is to kind of, have it appropriately separated. Like I said, it's the largest dual access lot in the area. So we think it's kind of with the buffering and how far it's set back from that line, and the houses are just, I won't go back to the GIS, but they are consistently kind of set back in line with the 421 Forest Street, as far as how far they are actually to the proposed warehouse structure. So I submitted a letter that kind of runs through all the criteria for the relief requested. I could run through it if you want, but I assume you've all read that, and I can answer any questions you have. I know we did receive, I'm sure we'll hear from Kelly Thompson at 429 Forest. We received an email. I just want to, just a couple of the issues, just to kind of get it out of the way, is that there'll be no storage there's not going to be work or outside storage of any heavy equipment on the site. All the access to the proposed use, the warehouse use, will be from VFW Drive. There'll be no additional kind of use or access from Forest at any time during construction or anything. The residential house is proposed to stay as a residential house. Dennis and Melissa have, they want to invest money. They really want to spruce it up. They currently have a tenant there, someone who works for Dennis. But they've talked about potentially, they want to invest money, and they've talked about it as being a good house for potential retirement because it's a single story. So they are invested, and they want to kind of, really, spruce up that house and do a nice job. So let me just see if there was anything else. Also, there was a comment about the dumpster and the proposed location for the dumpster. That dumpster certainly could be, we could shift that away from, I guess, the residential zone, potentially to the other side. The other thing is, Dennis is not even 100% sure he needs a dumpster. So we could potentially even be able to eliminate that. So and the things that would go into that dumpster would not be something I think that would, it's not like food. It would just be kind of like cardboard and things like that. So that's what we would anticipate being there. So just want to see if there was anything else there. And there was a comment about lack of fencing. I mean, there is existing fencing, and we have these 15 giant green arborvitae, but I'm sure, if the board thought it would be helpful and the neighbors thought it would be helpful, I'm sure we could, install additional, fencing to create additional buffering if necessary. But I can answer questions.
Sounds good, Attorney Golden. I'm gonna open this up to the board. First question, board members, do you need the plan up on the screen? Don't all speak at once. If you all got copies of the plan, or if you're familiar with the plan, I think we could probably just take that off.
Yeah, I don't need it, Mr. Chairman.
You're all set?
Yeah,
There we
I'm
go.
all set.
I'm just looking at it thinking that, it's better that, we can look at who we're talking to. So I'm gonna start right off with Mr. Tanzi. Do you have any questions for the applicant's representative?
Yeah, about the building. Are you gonna have bay doors, like garage doors in the front to access it, or how?
Should Dennis answer this? Yeah. Or
Dennis, yeah, will you answer? The answer is yes, but I will defer to Dennis on
we're gonna have a people
Yes.
the
door.
number. And
There'll be both, 3 people doors for emergency access. And there'll be a door in the front on face of VFW. And we're gonna have one on the right-hand side as well.
So there'll be 2 overhead doors?
Correct.
Okay. And how many vehicle trips per day do you anticipate in and out of this?
Usually we show up in the morning there at 7, we leave, we don't come back until the end of the day till 4.
Okay. All right.
All of our work happens off-site, so there's not going to be any work happening there as far as, I mean, we're a small site construction company, and so we do site work, at people's homes or businesses or for the town. So that's really, it's, utility work, that type of stuff.
And I apologize, I neglected to kind of mention that in my presentation. I would also note that they have a contractor's yard in Hingham.
That we've had for a long time.
Where their heavy equipment and they do all their laydown is at a separate contractor's yard, and that will continue to be the case.
So what type of materials are going to be stored at this building?
Service truck, hand tools, 2 small machines would probably be parked in the building and leave during the day. A Bobcat, mini excavator, and probably track loader. And then a couple service trucks.
That we're using actually out on site. I mean, the thing for the building, he has wrenches that are massive that he uses every 2 years. That are like 3 feet long. And then there's all sorts of different tools that we need storage for, in one area. It's really just to try to help us get organized with certain items. But they're not hazardous. It's not chemical. We're not making anything there. We need a controlled environment for, hand tools and different things that we need, that we've accumulated over our lifetime of working in construction.
Okay, I don't have any other questions.
Thank you, Mr. Tanzi. Appreciate that. Mr. Baker Jr., talk to me, sir.
Nothing at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Galley?
Yeah, I'll throw this question at Attorney Galvin. On a property that's, I don't know if we have other properties that have been bisected. Is there a precedent for how you lean towards approving one zone over another zone on a bisected property zone like this? That's where my question is.
First of all, this is kind of this property's not the average property in any way, shape, or form. We've seen this property before. The reality is the less restrictive district can be used for the principal use, extending no more than 30 feet. So the industrial portion of the property could extend 30 feet into the residential property if the residential property was the primary use of the property. But what they're looking to do is actually make a second use of a lot. And clearly the residential structure is an accessory to the commercial structure. And it doesn't meet the requirements of, or meet the limitations on accessory structures for a residential building under 41522B4, which limit an accessory structure to no more than 24 feet in height and 400 square feet. So, there's some significant issues here. I don't know if I've answered your question, but if the only use of this property was commercial and it emanated from the Veterans Parkway side, then they could extend 30 feet into the residential zone. And, in technically that 30-foot area between the edge of the parking and the property line, I guess it's been cleared, I thought I heard. I mean, it's supposed to be left in its natural state. So,
Part of the lot in the backyard was already clear. So that was already, trees were already down in that area, if that's what you're asking. But so we had originally thought about, about that, how you could extend the building 30 feet into the residential area. But now we are looking to move, so then we came back and we're moving the property much closer to VFW Parkway in order to provide that great buffer between the residential and the industrial to make everybody feel more comfortable. Also, the floor, the property gradually slopes away from Forest Street. And so it really is going to have very minimal impact. But I guess, are you saying whether or not, so what we're trying to do is really just to keep the house, to keep it looking consistent and have a home there.
I think he was just making I think, Melissa, sorry to interrupt you, that he was
No,
just
go ahead.
making a comment about that that area will be replanted. I think he was just making a comment about,
Yes,
creating
that area will be replanted.
Yeah.
Mr.
And
Galley?
we
Yeah,
want to,
that's fine.
we want to replant it with beautiful, we love gardening. I know the trees were taken down. They were very diseased. There were some beautiful trees there that had died at the top and were dangerous. But we love landscaping and we love trees and we love planting trees. So, I mean, we want to live in a beautiful environment and we care about that.
Mr. Galley, to answer your question, there's no precedent.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. You got anything else, sir?
Not at this
Good.
time, thank you.
All right. Mr. Baker Senior, what do you got?
The site plan. When the trucks come in, are they going to be trailer trucks or a 10-wheeler with a trailer on it?
I can't say that a 10-wheeler wouldn't drop a machine off and leave, or maybe park in the garage, one of them for the night. But most likely it'd be 1-tonners and utility trucks, service
You
trucks.
don't have any 18-wheelers coming in with machines?
No, sir.
Okay, because it looks like it's gonna be a little tight for turning around with a 10-wheeler with a trailer on it. Would that be parked outside for the night?
No, it'd be in the garage, without in the storage warehouse.
Okay. And the slope from VFW to the lowest part in that, on your lot, what grade is that? Is that a 2-to-1 pitch, a 3-to-1, a 1-to-1?
I believe it's a 2-to-1.
2-to-1. Is that gonna be
No,
paved?
no, excuse me. It will not be a 2-to-1. It's actually gonna be fairly level all around there. So you're probably looking at 2% grade. Very minimal.
That's enough. You're gonna start filling from VFW onto that lot?
To that first door, I will. Then it will slope through and go to natural grade.
That's an awful big fill. That's almost like at least 8 to 10 feet difference from BFW to the lower part of the lot.
Well, the right side of the lot is actually higher, and then the left side is lower. So we're gonna find a mean average grade there for that.
What I'm getting at is, if the slope is too great, it's
Right.
gonna be tough for trucks to get out of there in the winter.
No, it will not be at the entrance. There'll be 2% grade at the entrance.
Can I speak here? The general grade across the site where they're parking, where the drainage system is, it's elevation 140. Plus or minus a couple of inches, maybe 140.5. The grade as they're coming in is gonna be like 141 and change. So the grading isn't awful. It isn't awful, but I do hear what you're saying, Mr. Baker. Because of what, on one side, again, you're still at 140. The other side, you're still roughly at 140 and 0.7. I'm not worried about that. And when
I
you start
couldn't-
looking at it,
The plan we got, I couldn't see
I understand. I
numbers.
believe me, I understand. Because the lot is so narrow, it tends to be a pain to draft on this.
Yeah.
So I hear what you're saying. But in the grand scheme of things, that's gonna end up being a planning board action anyway, because not to interrupt, and not to go out of turn here, but I believe if you talk to Mr. Rubel, he's gonna have them go to site plan review. Mr. Rubel, would that be an accurate statement?
Yeah, there'll be a site plan review.
Okay, just making sure. So planning board's gonna, if we were to approve this, planning board would get their, their bite at this. And in turn, Pat Brennan would end up having to look at this and do the review on the drainage, if there's an issue, he'll pick that up immediately.
Okay. One last question, when the trucks leave the lot, are they gonna be driving through any gravelly areas, or is it gonna be all on pavement?
Oh, on the property?
Yes.
Yeah, that's all on the plan. It's all gonna be paved with catch basins and drainage, reclamation.
Okay. The reason I asked is the last applicant we had, we got a letter from the highway department requesting cleanouts and load check areas before the trucks leave the site, which is right down the street from you.
Okay.
They don't want it all being dragged out into the street and making a mess.
I understand that 100%. I mean, just to let you know, I probably pick up 100 nips on that road every week.
Welcome to Rock.
You know?
Yeah.
So I'm aware of the mess out there.
No, I'm just,
Yeah, but I mean, yes, with the trucks, you're,
that's all.
All right, Attorney Golden, have you been the attorney for this applicant the whole time? It was Walter Sullivan prior, wasn't it?
yes.
Yes?
Yeah,
Yes.
I wasn't, it was, yeah.
Okay,
So
I'm
the
trying to
answer is
remember.
no.
I'm trying to remember who I talked to, and I believe it was either Kayla or it was Walter Sullivan. I made this suggestion before, and I'm going to make the suggestion in public meeting. Why aren't you guys looking at subdividing this property right at the zoning line? If you look at the zoning line, all right, the zoning line runs right along the backside of Kathy Corrigan's old property and all the other properties that abut Kathy Corrigan but front on Forest Street. So that portion of your lot would be no smaller than those lots. I made this suggestion a while ago. And again, while I can't speak for the board, I do believe that your attorney, who understands zoning variances and how the board grants zoning variances and what laws we can use, what things that we can cite when looking at zoning variances. The only variance we'd have to grant is lot area. this lot is encumbered by that zoning. And that's the problem here. My gut feeling is you could do an A&R, subdivide off the residential piece of property, and now you've got two pieces of property, and most of all your problems go away.
Well, that would fix all the
I would
problems,
be
wouldn't it?
interested in, I would be interested in hearing the other board members because that was something that was discussed, but
Well,
we
this
weren't
is
sure. We
something that
thought
we
the
really
release for
can't-
this. Okay.
Discussion wise, we can't talk about it. I can bring it up and
Yep.
ask why nobody thought about this. You're saying that you have. If that was the case.
The reason that we went this route is because we can do, both of the uses are allowed within the zone and the existing dwelling. It would create a dimensionally non-conforming lot, obviously, from a lot area perspective. So that was the issue that kind of was a hang up. So
No, I absolutely understand it.
and we can discuss that further. Not you and I, but the client.
No, I hear you. I'd like to point out the fact that if this happened, if that were allowed to happen, if a variance was sought for square footage, and if it were allowed, the residential portion of this lot would be no smaller than all the lots that are behind Kathy Corrigan at this point. This board is very conscious about setting precedent. All right. And as Mr. Galley kind of pointed out, he was looking for any kind of precedent to allow this to happen. Multiple principal buildings on one lot doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. We don't allow it. We never have.
Well, at 406, two neighbors down, they have a warehouse and a dwelling,
406.
if you were to look at the map. But I think that, well, I mean, one of
If you
the
want,
things,
I'll pull up the map right now if you want.
well, I think on the aerial, Scott, that you have,
I can pull up the map if you'd like.
Yeah, if you want, please go for it.
but I mean, of course, if that could be a solution, we had talked about that, but we were told that, I guess in the end, we'd still have the same situation, would be able to keep the house and have the building, which is what we've been trying to achieve.
So which one are we looking at? 406?
406.
So this is 406,
that's Kathy.
450, and this is the brewery and the health club.
Yeah.
This is a single family. Or
No, it's not a
accessory
single
dwelling.
family. That was the pool
Okay.
house. That used to be the pool
Okay.
house. People haven't lived there.
I meant to say an accessory dwelling. I wasn't saying didn't.
Yeah, I mean,
intend to
you
call it
can
a front.
it's an accessory structure, but it's definitely not a dwelling.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
So, all right, so that takes that out. So again, what I was trying to say was this board is not big on setting precedent. Unless there's a reason. And when you look at the site plan and you see what's going on here, we'd have to bring this up to the board, but Attorney Golden, can you pan that down? That's Mass GIS, right? That's Mass Mapper.
Yeah, Mass Mapper. Yep.
If you can just pan down a little bit and then scroll in. So other way, my bad. Pan up. There we go.
Up.
Keep going down. Keep going down. All right.
Sorry.
Now zoom in so you can see all the right there. Zoom in so you can see all those pieces of property behind. Okay, and then zoom out a little bit so you can see the applicant's piece. All right. I just want people to, I want the board to see that the back of that property, and again, I can bring up the zoning map if you want, but the back of all those properties that are behind Kathy Corrigan's old place, those are all going to
I'll bring up the zoning map for you. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. All of those pieces of property would be no smaller, no bigger than if that got allowed. So it's just, that's something that I look at this and yeah, see, there you go. Kathy Corrigan's, if you look at Veterans of Foreign Wars, the V go kind of diagonally northwest, and that's Kathy Corrigan's place. All right. All those lots back there would be no bigger or no smaller than if the applicant redivided his property. But again, we can't talk about this. So that's not something that I want to talk about at this point any further. I just don't understand why this hasn't been thought of. And again, I brought this up to the last attorney, and I thought, Dennis, I thought he brought it to you. I thought he brought, I thought he had talked to you about this. It just, to me, seems like a better solution for you and makes most of your problems go away. So I'm going to throw this out there. Knowing that there's issues with the site plan that would be nice if it got revised and submitted. And, maybe this is something you think about while you're trying to revise that site plan. And that's kind of where I stand.
Okay,
You know,
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman.
That's helpful. This has
Very
been
constructive. I appreciate it.
It's been a thorn in our side for a very long time. I've gotten the zoning office has gotten comments and complaints about this piece of property since day one. So I'd like to see this put to bed. I'd like to see a good solution that has the potential to benefit the rest of the neighborhood, who's also kind of in this same kind of situation. So again, I don't know how to handle this. Board members, do you think this deserves a continuance, or do you want to try and make a decision tonight?
I would not be opposed to a continuance, Mr. Chairman.
That's one. Mr. I'm gonna go right down the board. Mr. Tanzi, what do you say?
You know, some interesting things have been aired, and I too was thinking about maybe there's some alternative ways to skin the cat, so to speak. But to be honest with you, I could go either way.
Okay.
You know?
All right, so we got a maybe. Mr. Baker Senior,
I'd like to see the stamp, the proper stamp on the plans.
you want things revised the way that they're supposed to be. Mr.
Yeah.
Galley, what do you think?
The way things stand, I'd be in favor of making a decision, but I have no objection to either course.
No, that's fine. We got three at this point. It's technically it would be like a 3-2, but I'm gonna go to Mr. Rubel. You and I discussed this earlier. The only issue that you have at this point, and it just refreshed my memory, the issue that you had at this point was the number of buildings on the lot, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I can remember, I can't remember the year that we went to the board prior to tonight. But I can remember that it was brought up that they'd have to go for the special permit like they're doing tonight.
Yeah.
We were talking about at the last meeting about raising that single family home because of the use of the lot. But now they're going for a special permit tonight, which would take care of that. But if I can remember correctly, I think Bob, Mr. Galvin, had said that if they wanted to do what they had to do, that house had to be raised. But if they get the special permit tonight, that goes away. Or revise and, do the drawing over with a proper stamp and come back to the board.
I would hate to see, well, it's probably, I haven't driven by the house, so I don't know what it looks like, but I can only assume it needs some upkeep. Can we say that? Okay, well, it doesn't sound to me like it needs to be raised. It doesn't sound to me like it needs to be taken down. It makes no sense to me to destroy a house, a perfectly good house that somebody can live in. It makes no sense to me to do that. If there's a way around that without setting a major precedent on putting multiple buildings on the same on the same lot, it just, if precedent was going to be created, I'd rather it be a precedent that's gonna help people than just make one lot work. So at this point, I don't know. we can either go to the general public, because it looks like there's a lot of people that wants to talk about this. And I hear you. You haven't said a word, people, and I hear you. I hear you 100%. So we can vote to continue, or at this point, I can open it up to the general public. Board members, what do you want to do? Don't all speak at once.
Just a question on procedure, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
If the forum is open to the members of the public, that doesn't preclude us from voting to continue after that, correct?
Absolutely not.
Right, thank you.
Board members, I'm gonna open it up to the general public. I want to hear what they have to say. Is that
Sure.
okay? Yes?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine by me.
I'm gonna
anyway.
open it up to the general public. General public, is there anybody that wants to speak in favor of this application? Raise your hand, please. Don't everybody raise their hand at once. If you want to speak opposed, raise your hand and I'll pick you each individually as it goes. Who wants to go first? Sean, talk to me. Speaker, microphone. There we go.
Thank you, board. Yeah, I will be brief. I do strongly oppose the granting of this special permit to maintain the single-family dwelling on the property. Reasons being the applicant's lack of transparency regarding their intentions was concerning. Their activities, including excessive noise during land clearing, disrupting the tranquility of the area, but also the increased traffic noise for myself and my neighbors. Additionally, their failure to make any improvements to the property has resulted in a decline in its appeal and has adversely affected the attractiveness of neighboring properties. Moreover, their assertion of intending to relocate to this property lacks credibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. That covered a lot. Is there anybody else that wants to speak? I guess it's opposed at this point. Is there anybody else that wants to speak opposed? I got nobody raising a hand, so I'm gonna.
We have two people raising our hands.
Oh, I got a phone number there. Who's speaking? And name and address, please.
Kelly, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My name's Kelly Thompson, 429 Forest Street.
Oh, there we go. Okay, Kelly Thompson. There we go. I apologize, man.
No worries. I just want to talk about the fence again. If possible, was it Scott, the digital mapper? Would you mind bringing that up if that's possible?
Give me just 1 second.
Thank you.
So you were talking about a fence. What, which fence were you speaking of?
Fencing. So I know they said they're gonna plant some bushes and they already have a fence, but so you can see my house is 429, so right to the right of theirs. The majority of my yard is visible to the open space they had. So if they had a warehouse there, it would feel like if I'm using my backyard, I'm almost working there. There's zero privacy. So I would like to rethink about how could this be more private for me? So I feel like this is actually my home. Because if they built this warehouse, my backyard, I mean, it would honestly look ridiculous. So I hope we could rethink that.
So basically,
not to
what you'd
interrupt
be
you,
looking
I've
for
worked-
is screening.
We are open to screening and putting up fencing there and taking those measures. So we want to work with, we want to be a good neighbor and we want to make it comfortable and attractive and we want you to feel good about it. So we will work with you and put beautiful screening in there. So I can promise you that, but I understand your concerns.
I appreciate it. And then
And we will.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry to interrupt you. I think we are likely getting a continuance, but that's something that will certainly be addressed when we come back before the board.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And then in my email, I did talk about the heavy equipment. So there wouldn't be diesel equipment being used on site. Okay, thank you. Those were all of my questions. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Let's see. Anybody else? I've got Jeffrey Barlow.
How you doing? I'm on.
Please,
I'm
name
here
and
on
address
behalf
for
of-
the, name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, Jeffrey Barlow. I'm here on behalf of Ms. Thompson at 429 4th Street. A couple questions. So, what is the height of the warehouse? What's the proposed height?
Dennis, do you know the answer to that? I'm not sure if it's.
The eave height is 22 feet and then it has 4 more feet to the ridge. So 26 feet is the total height of the building.
You mentioned you want to put a bobcat in there and possibly some skid steers. So there's going to be noise associated with firing that stuff up and loading it up. Early morning hours and at night too, right? You'd agree
Well,
with
like I
that?
said, 7 to 4.
Okay. And then as Kelly mentioned, the whole back area of the lot is completely visible. So, as cars are coming in and out of 4th Street, the lights are going to be shining directly into her house. So I think, what's the plan to kind of minimize
Well-
disturbances associated with vehicles coming in and out?
Our
Yeah, well,
slab
there
level,
is. Sorry to interrupt you, but basically the 15 giant green arborvitae are planted there to obviously provide that first layer. I think we'll be reevaluating the need for a second fence kind of behind those as well. So that's something, we believe that will provide ample buffering. So.
And Dennis, you mentioned possibly bringing a triaxle in there, right? I mean,
I know 10-wheeler, but let me mention this to you too. The slab height of this building will be over 10 feet lower than Kelly's first floor. So this building will actually be suppressed in the ground, not sticking out of the ground.
So that the property gently slopes away from Forest Street. So what we're saying is when you're in your kitchen, your floor and the floor of the warehouse that is 10 feet lower.
Yep.
Do you see what I'm saying with the grade?
How high of a
the
fence are
grade
you guys
works with
building?
that property. And then we don't really have that much equipment. We're a small construction company. So I mean, if he leaves in the morning and there's not going to be things coming in and out. I mean, it's not a real industrial situation like we have up and down that street as far as what we're doing. But so I mean, lights aren't coming in after 4 o'clock. I mean, he tries to be back wherever he is, and we have a yard in Hingham early before the buses go. I mean, so it's right. So I mean, it's not that anyone's coming in late at night driving something.
I mean, is there any other restrictions on the other industrial lands on that VFW for this? I mean, I'm a small business. I'm trying to do this right, neighbors and board, not just going there to rip the house down. I'm trying to do this right. I'm going to be able to fix this house up. I want to make it nice there. I don't understand why you guys are all fighting because it's all over the street and this place was developed to be industrial and residential.
Dennis, I think we're both just trying to be on the same page and make sure we both have nice backyards. So
Yeah,
I think
exactly. I get it. I want everybody to have a
I don't
neighborhood.
feel that way, so we're just having a conversation. That's all.
Yeah, I get it, but it seems like there's a lot against this, and I see a lot of trash around.
Okay.
All right.
I don't have
No,
any
and
trash.
I
I'm simply
appreciate-
just asking about fencing. Thank you.
Like I said, we're gonna reevaluate this, and we will show that on the plan. And
I appreciate the screening idea. That is correct that the base grade for this site, the base grade is going to be 10 feet, no, but probably about 7 feet lower than the houses out on Forest Street. But again, that's 7 feet. Building, what'd you say, Dennis? It's like 26? Like 26 feet tall?
Yeah.
Okay. Then it's gonna be about 15 feet on top of that, so you'll end up seeing the people in the back, they'll end up seeing your building, basically the roof, as they're standing on their first floor. There's gonna be some visibility. There is gonna be some visibility. The screening, from an elevation standpoint, it's gonna take a little bit to get some screening out there. 8-foot fence ain't gonna cover it. A 10-foot arborvitae, I don't think that's gonna cover it. And it's it's a difficult situation when it comes to this, but there are creative ways that screening can happen. There are creative fencing options that can happen. It's just it's from the board's aspect. From the board's aspect, it's a bylaw situation. Use variance, we were talking, and again, just so we're clear, we were talking about use variances, right? You applied for a use variance. You don't fulfill the criteria for a use variance. That's not something that we can just give, because this lot, if you didn't build this building, it would still be a residential lot that had a house. You know, you would have to comply to work with a use variance. There would have to be some other reason that the board would have to be able to allow this, based on the fact that it was something else for so long. The only thing that could go here was your building, but that's not true, because it's one lot. And the bylaw says you can only have one building, one prime building per lot. So that's what the board's worried about. Your neighbors are worried about the screening and stuff like that. So I just wanted to make sure that it was clear. I see someone raising their hand. It says Tracy family raised hand. And now I see is that Tracy family?
Tracy family.
How you doing? What's name and address for the record, please?
Jessica Tracy, 411 Forest Street.
Gotcha.
I wanted to provide public comment to the objection of the special permit due to various reasons. As far as transparency of the work being done and the evidence of making the property better, since leveling all the trees in the backyard, which increase noise pollution, air pollution, there has been no further work to this property. So I don't know how many nips you're picking up, because nobody's here except for a tenant that's living there. And I don't appreciate our good town here being called trash. So that's one. Two, as a registered environmental health specialist, registered sanitarian, health inspector for many municipalities, and public health nurse, I have various concerns about the use of this property. The trucks that were admittedly told to me that yes, they would have to be run for some time before being driven. And I don't know if they use diesel, but there's also those considerations. You know, being a good neighbor means working with your neighbors and being transparent, not coming to us the day before this hearing to share your plans. It was leveled and then it was abandoned. I'm going to leave it at that for now.
Oh,
Mr.
Jason
Tracy, I
from
appreciate
411
that.
Forest Street.
Yep.
We're stuck with this warehouse being put in because that's the rules. They say it's an industrial area. I'm dumbfounded. I've lived here my whole life. I had no idea there was industrial behind these houses, but there is. I can't stop the warehouse if that's what they're going to put there, because that's the rules. They should have to follow the rules that if they're going to have the warehouse, they don't get the house, because that's the rules. And I don't like it. I don't like the fact that they can put a warehouse. There are businesses further up on VFW, all around each other. Theirs is being put in basically almost in the middle of a neighborhood. So it's not adding to the character. Will it look Will it look weird without a house there? It's going to look weird with a warehouse there. I mean, I either have an eyesore and a house, or I have an eyesore without a house. It's you know, there's really no way to win, because it's such an odd situation. And you know, I just follow, like you just said, it's the bylaw. They either make it a warehouse or they make it a house. They pick, and that's where I'll leave it.
And one last comment from Jessica Tracy, 411 Forest Street. my mother-in-law, who has lived here for over 43 years, had to spend $2,000 to put some trees in the backyard to create some kind of barrier. The only fencing that separates ours from theirs is our fencing. So that was also a cost burden on us. And because of the lovely soil that we have here in Rockland, these trees did not survive. So I'm concerned that the vegetation is going to be the solution for a buffering zone. Thank you.
Gotcha. Anything,
And if
actually,
I could
anything else
just
you want to talk about? Or we I'll assume that we're good, Jessica, Tracy. Okay, I've got a Maureen Green raising her hand. Is that Maureen Green?
Maureen Green, 428 Forest Street. I'm not
Okay.
sure if you can hear me because I don't have a speaker on my computer.
No,
can
we
hear
hear
you. We can.
You can hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I'm concerned about the inconsistencies with what we've been told over the past few years that the house has been owned. Nothing has ever come to fruition that we were told. The house has remained, as the others say, a considerable eyesore, and nothing's been done to improve the property. Trees were taken down that were not diseased. I've lived here for over 50 years, and I have concerns that with coming in off of Forest Street and going behind the house and down into the area where the supposed warehouse is going to be, or coming in from the parkway and coming up behind the house and coming out on Forest Street. I think rather than vegetation, there should be a wall built so that vehicles are not allowed to be driven between both pieces of property. And the other thing I'd like to address is, what is the industrial waste holding tank for? Why would you need that for a warehouse?
You want to answer that, Dennis? Microphone.
You're on mute. Yep.
Any warehouse that you pull a vehicle inside has to have that, the law. And that's anything that goes in a drain will go in that tight tank so it doesn't leach, and then it would get pumped out and taken to a proper facility.
It seems
And
to
just
me
to
it's
get
an
back,
awful expense for you to put in a warehouse just to consolidate your equipment when you already have a place in Hingham. My husband
We don't
was a
have a warehouse
contractor
in
for
Hingham.
many, many, many years. It never went through that.
Well,
I mean, we have a shed up back that he had his equipment in and his tools and things. And
Well,
I
I've
just
rented.
don't understand it. You have a proposed stockpiling area. What is going to be stockpiled there that you need a proposed area?
That is for construction, Maureen.
That's during construction that the stockpiling is called for.
So are you going to be stockpiling stone, loom,
Nope. That's
anything like that? Anything that's going to create dust situations for us?
Nope. That is for when.
Whether you realize it or not, I mean, there are a lot of younger families in here, but quite a few of us are in our 70s. And, you know, we've just had a nice little neighborhood for a long time. And I think I have to agree with others. We hate to see it destroyed. Not that we're not welcoming to you, but you really have never been honest with any of us from day one.
I'll be
Every
honest.
one of us can tell you a different story that has been told to them by both of you.
Go ahead.
So, you know, we just like the straight facts as they are rather than beating around the bush constantly.
You know something? It's taken longer than I thought. I've had issues that I've had to deal with. I haven't forgotten about the neighborhood. And get that back to the Tracy family. I wasn't calling Rockland trash. I'm saying I pick up trash on VFW. And that stockpile is for during construction. That's where the dirt would go before it gets placed back around the foundation.
I think she said she's got no speakers, so everything that you just said, Dennis, she didn't hear.
Yeah, I forgot about that, Mr. Rosen.
Well, I don't know. We're
Yeah,
looking to invest in Rockland. We like Rockland. And that's why we.
But you've never
bought
lived
in
here.
Rockland. And I think we have been honest the whole time with what we've been trying to do here. We haven't really been able to get some we've been trying to get some guidance to move forward. We actually did explore trying to divide the lot. We've been trying to move forward so we can invest in the property. It's been taking a long time to be able to do that. And, you know, it's not, the things that need to be done cost a lot of money, and we have to know that we can keep it. As far as the soil up there, when we do a lot of heavy landscaping, so I can assure you that our trees will grow. You're right, the trees that you have, you can't grow evergreens under larger trees. The trees are magic, and they know actually they can sense somehow when there's something above them, and they will not grow. So all of that has to be trimmed away. We know how to properly install and grow trees. We do it all the time for customers and for ourselves. So we can really, we would pick some beautiful buffering and have successful growth with the vegetation. But you're right, it does, if the soil isn't adequate, then you have to prepare the soil. But we can get that going. We feel like we have tried to explain what we want to do there, and we're looking to invest a lot of money there to make it very comfortable and part of our life. But I guess we'll have to see, you know, what happens with the decisions that are made.
Is there anybody else that wants to speak, whether in favor or opposed? Mr. Attorney Galvin, I saw you raising your hand. Or are you just saying, or are you just waving hey?
Just give me no. Hold on a minute. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I don't know if this adds any clarity, but I looked online to see whether I could determine when this lot was cleared, and I was able to discern that. Does the board want to see that? Those pictures?
Want to
What it
share?
looked like?
If you want to share your screen, if you went to Google Earth and went back in time.
Yeah, hold on a minute. Screen. Okay, can you see that now? Can you see
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
This property here is the 421 Forest Street.
Okay.
And this photograph was taken on Friday, April 5th, 2019. So you can see the whole area. I mean, there was a residential house. It doesn't look like it was lived in at the time. And then there was some initial clearing in this backyard area and some stones. So now I'm going to stop and I'm going to fast forward to another photograph. Hold on. Okay, can you see this photograph now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this photograph was taken March 14, 2020. So you can, I sometime between March of 2019 and March of 2020, property was cleared, and the area that would have been a natural buffer for the residential structure where that to remain was basically taken down. I believe these property owners acquired the property in October of 2018, the year before. And then I have one more photograph to show you. This is the most current. This is the most current picture of the property now. So I think there's some gate that's been erected on the side, and that appears to have been there in a couple of the earlier pictures, but everything's been fully cleared, and the property and the topography looks like it's been altered. So I thought it would be helpful for the board to know when that occurred. It occurred during the time frame of the current ownership of the property. Okay.
So that happened after we went to conservation and we had a permit to put in the gravel parking area and access off of VFW Parkway. In order to, the whole area needed to be cleaned out. But we would like to replant everything, but we've been waiting to get permission to move forward with our plants. And when we do that, we would like to make a beautiful environment and spend money landscaping the area and putting up trees and fencing and everything that would elevate this property that was actually We had done actually quite a bit. We went and got permits through building and did make some improvements inside, but then had to kind of stop when we weren't sure what was going to happen. But so
I just wanted the board to be aware of what happened when, and one of the aspects of developing industrial property is to make sure there's a buffer to a residential property, and
Right.
this was altered. So,
Right. It's just the amount of trees that could have been left between the residential and industrial portion, and you clear cut the lawn. I think that's what everybody's kind of like up in
I know
arms
it
about.
feels that way. They were pine trees that were actually, in our opinion, very dangerous.
And these are
They
pine
were-
trees
they were-
supposed to be
they were,
located on a
stripped
plan
up
that
to
was
the
supposed to be
top.
submitted to the zoning board. Right? This is there were you say you got permits, but yet
And we went to conservation and they said, go have a tree cutting party.
yeah, but that
Not that we didn't think it was a party, but that was actually said to us. I mean,
Tom Rubel, speak. I need your help here.
well, Rob, conservation is one element of permitting in Rockland. There are
Right.
multiple other elements. And
Right.
just because
But
conservation gives you authority to do that doesn't mean that necessarily satisfied the zoning bylaw or the health rules and regulations or things like that.
Right. That's it. But what the applicant is asserting is that they had that permission to do that, and technically they didn't. Tom Rubel was the first person that pointed out the fact that they tore down all the trees without providing a tree survey that's required by the zoning bylaw.
Well, when we got the permit, no one mentioned anything like that to us. I guess I'm sorry if we at the time didn't feel like, we'd like to move forward and make everything right. I guess if there's been any wrongs that's been done. And so we don't want to leave it like this either.
No,
We
and I
would
don't think
like
anybody
to-
wants that. Nobody wants that. Nobody
we don't
wants
want it either. We don't
Right.
not want it either. We don't want that house looking like it is. We don't want any of that. We want to invest and we want to make it a nice environment, and I mean, that's what we want. That's what we've been trying to figure out and do. We've written a lot of letters trying to figure that out. I made many visits trying to find out which way to go with this. What would be possible?
Let's wrap this up. This is getting late. This is getting late, and everybody wants to talk. This is what I'd like to do. I think everybody's looking at the fact that or at least the board members, they want some more information on the plan. They want the plan properly stamped. I think that we're looking at a continuance. I'd like to look at I would entertain a motion for a continuance to and we'll deal with date and time certain once we're ready.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to continue the public hearing for, what is it? Forest and Pleasant Street.
421
to-
Forest.
421 Forest Street to May 27th at 7:30.
Deb,
May 21st.
21st. I'm sorry. I'll
May
amend my
21st
motion.
at 7:30.
May 21st at 7:30.
All right, I got a motion. I'm gonna go to Attorney Golding. Does that work for you? Benoit, does that work?
That
Does that
does
work
work.
for you? Yes?
Yes.
That does
Think
work,
we can
yeah.
think we can get to Mr. Morse's office and get those things taken care of?
Absolutely, yes.
All right, so I got a motion. I need a second. You got a second, roll call. Make sure your mics are on, guys. Mr. Tanzi?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Mr. Baker Jr.?
Yes.
Mr. Galley?
No,
You don't want to continue it?
no, I expressed earlier I was in favor of making the decision.
Okay, that's fine. Mr. Baker Jr., Mr. Baker Senior, rather.
Yes.
All right, so we got 4 votes. That's the motion carries. We're gonna do it. We're gonna continue to, what do we say, the 21st, May 21st?
May 21st,
All right.
7:30.
All documentation that needs to be resubmitted needs to be in no later than a week prior to the hearing, and we can go from there.
Thank you.
Not a
Thank you.
problem.
Thank you all.
Not a problem. All right, now let's go back to the agenda to make sure that I'm not missing anything. Okay, we got that. We did that. Non-deliberative announcements. Deb, you got anything?
I have nothing.
Other items not reasonably anticipated to the extent allowed by law. Anybody? Nothing? All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session, not to reconvene.
For the purposes of discussing pending litigation, to wit, the Shingle Mill versus the Rockland Zoning Board of Appeals pending at the Housing Appeals Committee.
So I've got I need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, so you got the motion. I need a second.
Second,
I got a second. Roll call. Mr. Tanzi?
Yes.
Myself is yes. Mr. Baker Jr.?
yes.
Mr. Galley?
Yes.
And Mr. Baker Senior?
Yes.
All right, you guys got all the login information?
Can we hold it for 5 minutes to go to the little boys' room?
We
Yeah,
should
yeah,
go to
yeah,
the executive
yeah.
session, just jump in, Bob.
Yeah, just jump in when you get there.
All right.
All right, we'll pick this up in a month. We'll see you all again. We'll see everyone later.
Thank you. Good night.